Well, the first season of Capaldi's era as the Doctor has been rather tumultuous, but now it's come to a close. And we're going out with quite the bang. We start with the world waking up to lots and lots of trees. It seemed to have sprung up overnight. And the Doctor, Clara, and Danny Pink, who realizes that Clara lied about breaking it off with the Doctor, as the Doctor realizes the same with him, with Danny. But right now, they've got some children from Coal Hill to look after, and a forest to analyze. Meanwhile, one of the children, Maeve, who seems to have misplaced her sister last year and is experiencing neurodivergence, seems to be hallucinating bugs flying around her head, chasing her through the woods. Luckily, she comes across the Doctor, whom Clara told her to seek out, and he helps reluctantly. Meanwhile, while they are all trying to figure out what's going on, the government, misguided as they are, attempts to destroy the trees, clear some paths. Only the Doctor notices that the trees seem to be able to control the amount of CO2 that they're absorbing, and they actively smother the fire that tries to destroy them. So the government is planning on using defoliant to get the leaves first, so the wood will burn. But it's quickly sussed out that that's a bad idea. It seemed the trees on Earth are similar in intelligence to the trees on Androzani. They have spirits, and they've actually been trying to communicate with Maeve, who, thanks to her lack of medication, is now able to be a conduit so the Doctor can talk to the trees. It seems they're actually there to help, because as Maeve realized, thanks to what could be potential low-level psychic ability, which happens sometimes with humans, she realized that a solar flare was going to hit Earth, similar to what hit the bank of Carabraxos, and it's going to be a doozy. Now, in past future Doctor episodes, there was talk of solar flares that forced humanity to flee to the stars briefly. So this might be one of those instances. Only it doesn't say that humanity was wiped out or had to leave for the stars just yet. Eventually, the Doctor realizes the trees, producing so much oxygen that it's enveloped the Earth like a cushion, are actually there as a shield. When the solar flare hits, what the trees produced protects the planet, allowing humanity to survive, and the trees that weren't already there eventually dissipate. And they even leave behind a gift for the girl, who sort of helped them. The trees locate her sister and bring her home, which is kind of sappy but cute. Meanwhile, there's a lot of good interaction with the Doctor, the kids, Danny, and Clara. While at first, when the Doctor believes that Earth is doomed, he wants to save as many people as possible, namely the kids, only they don't want to leave their parents behind. And Danny doesn't want to leave the kids behind. And Clara doesn't want to be the last of her kind. I would, but I'm me, and Clara's Clara. So while I would have gone with the Doctor, Clara wouldn't. But it's all a moot point, seeing as nobody died this time. Although, there were a couple of tense moments when rapidly growing trees wrecked the London Zoo and released some wolves and a tiger. But Danny was able to deal with it by scaring the tiger off with a flashlight. Anyway, the day is saved. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman from before watches the light show and smirks. She's definitely got something sinister planned. And it comes to fruition in a horrible way. Because, in the next adventure, Clara, right after declaring her undying love for Danny over the phone, has to deal with his death. Never walk and talk while on a phone, because you get distracted. And poor Danny learned that the hard way when a car struck him down. And then, after a little while of mourning, or should I say being numb, we unfortunately get to see a bit of Clara's dark side. And her eyes, a light goes out in them and something else replaces it. Because, on a whim, seemingly, she phones up the Doctor asking to check out a live volcano. And she starts collecting spare TARDIS keys. And she asks about one of the sleep patches the Doctor saved from New Earth. And we see Clara at her darkest. We see what pain turns her into. She loses all reason and starts destroying TARDIS keys using the lava, which is the only thing that can destroy a TARDIS key. Ordering the Doctor to go back in time and save Danny. But as we know from what happened with Rose's dad, sometimes you just can't do that. Danny's death is a fixed point in time. And the Doctor, can't save him, Danny. And so, just after Clara destroys the last TARDIS key, she immediately regrets it and all the emotions just come flooding in. But it's too late. The TARDIS keys are gone, and not even snapping his fingers will, the Doctor's that is, will get the TARDIS doors to open up. Luckily, that wasn't real. Turns out the patches, which don't work on the Doctor, but do work on Clara, induce a dream state. They're still in the TARDIS, which is completely unharmed, and so are the keys. So, after seeing what Clara is capable of, the Doctor says, "Go to you-know-where." And while she thinks he's kicking her out of the TARDIS for good, like that fellow from Future Earth, way back in Season 1 of the New Era, nope. Turns out they're both going to you-know-where, or wherever it is human consciousness goes when a body dies. So, like with that time when they hopped through Danny Pink's timeline, the Doctor turns off the safeguards, plugs Clara into the psychic circuits, and away they go. And they end up in a mausoleum where skeletons encased in a special frame sit in water that only shows organic matter. And they finally meet Missy, who, as it turns out, is a robot. And they meet her mechanic, Dr. Chang. And then Clara and the Doctor separate. That's usually a bad idea, because quickly it's revealed that Dr. Chang is, in fact, Missy's subordinate, and Missy is a Time Lord. Actually, Time Lady. Now, I'm thinking at first she's the Ronnie. She's got to be the Ronnie. Who else would it be? And she reveals that she has some Time Lord tech. Basically, a memory storage device which holds human consciousnesses from a long time ago up to now. And while everyone's talking and Missy casually disintegrates Dr. Chang, it's revealed that the bones encased in a special frame are actually Cybermen. She's figured out a way to convert She's figured out a way to convert corpses into Cybermen and re-upload the consciousness of the bodies that the bodies used to hold. Meanwhile, Danny, who is in the Time Lord storage device, dubbed the Nether Sphere, he ends up having to confront the Middle Eastern boy he mistakenly shot while he was a soldier. Yeah, we finally get his backstory. And he even gets to communicate with Clara. Although, for some reason, he can't bring himself to divulge proof that he is Danny Pink and not some sort of construct. And he gets given the opportunity to potentially delete himself from the Nether Sphere, although we never know if he actually was about to push the button, because the Cybermen that are already activated once the Doctor leaves the building trying to find Clara, Clara gets confronted by some Cybermen who plan to destroy her, only she bluffs her way into buying time by saying she's actually the Doctor. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Missy walk out of none other than St. Paul's Cathedral. So when Missy activates the whole of the Nether Sphere, and some strange rain clouds start forming thanks to some exploding Cybermen, in order to seed the graves of Earth with cyber technology. Well, once again, the iconic image of the Cybermen against St. Paul's Cathedral has formed. And the people milling around, well, they start taking pictures. And it looks like Missy, or the Rani, or as it turns out, the Master, as she's actually formerly known as, plans to take over the Earth using cyber zombies, basically. Luckily, in part 2 of this particular story, the good guys have not been idle. Turns out those tourists that were milling around taking pictures, they're actually unit personnel. Osgood shows up, uses her non-threatening persona to relieve Missy of her little device, which replaces her laser screwdriver, which not only works as a disintegrator but also works as a communication device. So it's very handy and sick. So Missy is captured. The Doctor is taken aboard an airplane and declared President of the World in order to deal with this new threat. And Clara, she gets saved from the Cybermen bearing down on her by none other than a resurrected Danny Pink, who's now Cyber Danny. But his emotions are intact, so he's able to be a hero. Eventually, after the Cybermen shoot down the plane that they're on, after Missy escapes her bonds, kills Osgood, or at the very least the Zygon pretending to be Osgood. We never confirm who gets killed. And even throwing Kate Stewart off the plane, the Doctor, Missy, and Clara end up at a cemetery that is rapidly being cyber-converted. Just like all the graves on Earth since time immemorial. Just like, no doubt, the graves in New York City. And yes, my first thought was Amy and Rory could now be Cybermen. But we don't explore that particular territory. Instead, Missy reveals that she converted the dead to Cybermen and plans to convert the whole of the Earth to Cybermen in order to give control of that new army to the Doctor as a birthday present. It seems she wants to prove that he and she are not that different. She wants him to become the Time Lord Victorious, or the Valiard, or basically a universal conqueror, in order to save everyone. Basically, Lord Vice's shtick. Conquer worlds in order to protect them. If you don't know who Lord Vice is, look him up. Anyway. The Doctor, after finding out what's going on from Cyber Danny, after turning off his emotions, at Danny's request, by the way, the Doctor realizes something. After thinking about what Rusty the Dalek said about him being a good Dalek, he realizes he's not a good man or a bad man, or a soldier or an officer or a president. He's just some but stumbling from situation to situation, helping out wherever he can. He was wrong to want to be the Time Lord Victorious back in the day, and the Valeyard is certainly wrong. And so, he gives up control of the army to someone who will use it for good. Cyber Danny, who, despite not having his emotions anymore, is still showing loyalty to Clara and the rest of the world. Because the clouds that formed from those first few exploding Cybermen are still seeding the Earth. And anyone who dies will become a Cyberman. So it's up to Danny and the other Fallen of Earth to rise up one last time to save their home world. And so the soldier saves everyone. Way to go out in style, Danny. Salute. Meanwhile, Clara wants to disintegrate Missy for what she's done. Though the doctor talks Clara down, I gotta stop saying these tongue twisters. But before the doctor can disintegrate Missy, one last Cyberman, who no one noticed, fires on Missy, disintegrating her. And then points the doctor and Clara to Kate Stewart's body. Only she's not dead. She's very much alive, having caught a ride with that Cyberman back down to the planet, safe and sound, though partially knocked out, probably due to oxygen deprivation. Only she is conscious enough to mention her dad, the Brigadier. And the doctor puts it together. The dead of the Earth coming back to life as Cybermen. Earth's darkest hour. The Doctor's darkest hour. Of course he'd be there, helping out however he could. And so, the Doctor fulfills the Brigadier's last wish and salutes him. At which point the Brigadier flies off, maybe to explode, maybe to continue doing good. We'll never know. Now, a lot of people, they were upset that it's implied that the Brigadier became a Cyberman, but while the first time I watched this episode I didn't know much about him, I did grow to care for him, and honestly, I didn't mind. The scene hit me right in the feels, how it should have. So, after the day was mostly saved, despite heavy losses, the Doctor and Clara decide to part ways for a little while, because the Doctor had one last gift for Clara. Turns out the bracelet that controlled the cyber army that the Doctor gave to Danny, it also was able to bring Danny back from the Nether Sphere, which, after a couple of months, started to dissipate, so the dead could finally rest in peace. Only Danny doesn't come back through the portal that the bracelet creates. Instead, the soldier saves one last life. The kid he mistakenly killed as a soldier. Always a hero. So, a couple weeks later, the Doctor and Clara have a meeting, and the Doctor accepts that Clara probably wants to maybe enjoy just going through time the long way around with Danny. Meanwhile, Clara finds out that Missy gave the Doctor the coordinates to Gallifrey. So he's going home. And neither of them have the heart to tell the other the truth. But apparently Missy lied. Gallifrey's not there. And Danny Pink, he's still passed on. But still, they part ways. As friends. Christmas is going to be a bit of a downer. Or is it? It seems Santa's real, and he ended up crashing into Clara's house. Meanwhile, the Doctor pops in to get her away from Santa and his elves for some reason. Don't see why. He's played by Nick Frost. He's cool. And they end up excuse me. They end up at an expedition to the North Pole, where 4 scientists are dealing with an invasion of strange alien crustaceans that latch onto the human face, much like the facehuggers from the Alien franchise, and induce a dream state that allows the victims to be digested in peace. Unfortunately, when the Doctor and Clara show up, the remaining scientists and those two get attacked by dream crabs, only to be saved by Santa. Unfortunately, it's all a dream. So, they have to figure out a way to wake up before their heads are digested. Eventually they do, after Santa and the Doctor lock horns, basically. But unfortunately, there's a bit of an Inception thing going on. Just when you think you're out of the dream, you're still in a dream. The indication being a slight ice cream headache feeling in your temple on the right side, just above the eye. That's the indicator. Although eventually they do seem to wake up. But one of the scientists gets fully digested before that happens. And eventually it's revealed that the scientists aren't actually scientists. They're just people scattered throughout the timeline, and they're all probably at home. And so, after one more sleigh ride with Santa, the surviving people wake up. First, the semi-elderly lady from the group wakes up at her granddaughter's place in a wheelchair. Next, the lady who realizes she works with perfume wakes up in bed and now has to vacuum up what's left of the dream crab from her pillows. Oh, what a mess. Then the youngest member of the group, she wakes up in a pretty sloppily cared for flat with a list of stuff that needs doing. Chief among them, forgive some guy. Unfortunately, these people didn't actually know each other for real, so they can't keep in touch, which is a shame, because they seem to be very friendly with each other. Then the Doctor wakes up on some volcanic region, maybe a different planet, who knows. And unfortunately, Clara is the most stubborn and refuses to wake up. So the Doctor has to go to her house and force the crab off her face with a sonic screwdriver. Only these crabs, they were attaching themselves to people at different times, in the timeline. So it's revealed that Clara is now an old lady, having never dated another person, rather traveled and continued her teachings. She basically did the thing Rose from Titanic did. She walked in the dust. And so, while celebrating Christmas, even helping Clara pop a Christmas cracker, much like the way she helped 11 when he was old, they reminisce, only to be interrupted by Santa telling the Doctor to wake up. Yet one last bit of inception. So for real, the Doctor wakes up and goes to save Clara, who is still young, actually. And he invites her to rejoin him in the TARDIS, which she enthusiastically accepts. Oh, and earlier in the dream sequence, there was a touching moment when she ended up stuck in a beautiful dream of being with Danny at Christmas time, and the Doctor infects himself with a dream crab in order to get her out of the dream. And it's revealed that Dream Danny is too accurate. He actually helps her wake up. He revealed that he only saved Clara. Everyone else just got lucky to be dragged along for the ride. So, let that be a lesson to anyone who tries to use a good dream to keep someone in a prison. If the dream's powerful enough, the dream itself can save the dreamer. So, that brings the first season of the Capaldi era of Doctor Who to a close. When next we meet, the Doctor meets some old friends, and time loops around on itself. Wibbly wobbly indeed. Until then, this is Mr. J signing out and reminding you, Santa is real. He just doesn't travel around in a sleigh. Looks more like a box. Happy holidays, folks.